Hey guys, after a lot of thought, a lot of support, and love from not just you guys, but also other YouTubers and streamers as well, I've decided to give it another shot and sort of start over with this channel. From now on, I'm only going to stick to top 10s for the time being and just see what happens. The video where I said I was going to either quit or take a 6-month break got more love than I could have ever imagined, and it really was a huge eye-opener for me. I realized that there is way more love out there in the community of this channel than there is hate, so for those of you who have stuck with me all this time and still support me, it does mean a lot. Anyway, I figured I'd do a nostalgic kind of video today, and it's going to be about some of the more memorable moments of RuneScape's history, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Number 10, the Falador Massacre. Obviously, I couldn't make this video without including the Falador Massacre. For those of you who don't know, it was an infamous glitch and violation of the bug abuse rule that occurred on the date of 666, being June 6, 2006, and in some parts of the world, June 7, 2006. When the construction skill was released, it was released with a lot of bugs and glitches. The first player to ever get 99 construction, named Cursed You, decided to hold a house party. One of the thousands of players that attended the house party was named Duriel321. Duriel321 and a few other players were inside Cursed You's combat ring in his house when the amount of people that were at the party made the entire server lag, and Cursed You was eventually forced to kick out all of the players from his house. Whenever he did this, whoever was inside that combat ring still had the ability to fight players outside of the wilderness. There were others who had this ability other than just Duriel321, however Duriel321 was a high level and took it much farther than the other players did, so I'd assume that's why his name went down in history. He started at Remington, worked his way through Falador where he killed most of his victims, and he even PK'd a green and purple party hat while on his rampage. He meleeed and ice barraged anyone he pleased until he hit the town of Edgeville, where he was immediately banned. He was rumored to have been IP banned, however nobody can really confirm this except for Duriel321 himself, but nobody has ever heard from him ever again, and it was without a doubt one of the most memorable moments in RuneScape's history. Number 9, the Old Knight. The Old Knight, for those of you who don't know, was an American RuneScape player that was listed within the top 10 overall ranked players of RuneScape for many years. Most of the time, he was commonly battling out for first place in the early days of RuneScape Classic with Zezma and Lil Yuffie 88. By mid-2006, the Old Knight finally received 2,079 total level and all level 99 stats, and he hosted a party for achieving it. During his maxing party, he mysteriously logged out, and nobody had ever heard again from him for a few weeks, and his total XP on the high scores was untouched too. Eventually, it was confirmed that the Old Knight sadly passed away at the age of 47 after a long battle with colon cancer. He was well known for being a great role model in the community, and he would often talk to players if they tried talking to him. Unfortunately, I couldn't find out what his real name was, and I don't think anybody else except his close friends knew this information either. After his passing, in level 14 Wilderness, Jagex created somewhat of a monument dedicated to the Old Knight. In the middle of such a dead-looking area, it's a hill with grass, flowers, a gravestone, and a statue of a warrior on top of it. When you examine the warrior, it says this person was of great importance, and when you examine the gravestone, it says the inscription is worn away and is unreadable. And that kind of makes me sad. Today, the Old Knight's account is locked by Jagex. It was safeguarded at the request of his wife and son. You can still add the Old Knight to your friends list, so this proves that his account does still exist, and after researching a bit, I also found the Old Knight's password. It was leaked a while ago, and you can attempt to log on to his account, but when you do, it'll say that the account is locked, and I assume that Jagex would never actually unlock it no matter what. He was a great player and definitely deserves a spot in this countdown. Number 8, EOC. The Evolution of Combat was a complete rework of RuneScape's combat system released on the 20th of November in 2012. Billed as one of RuneScape's largest content updates in RuneScape's history, the Evolution brought a variety of new content including powerful abilities, dual-wielding weapons, new magic and ranged equipment, and new prayers. In addition, the combat triangle had been massively rebalanced, monsters had new attacks, and the combat level formula had been revised, changing level 138 combat level to level 200, although the formula was later reverted to a modified version of the original. To accommodate the enormous changes, Jagex ran a beta for 6 months where players could enter specialized worlds with the new combat system loaded onto them. These worlds were segregated from the rest of RuneScape, and nothing done on them had any effect to the live version of the game. Many players, however, protested against this update due to the revolutionary change it would make, fearing it would make the game lose its culture and tradition. Edition. Jagex released a survey that would be completed after taking a tutorial on the new combat system's beta worlds. About 2/3 of those surveyed had a generally favorable opinion to the new combat system, with 2/5 of those surveyed didn't like the new system. This resulted in a massive drop of active players, and today, with old school RuneScape returning, unfortunately has split the community in half even more. Whether you liked DOC or whether you hated it, it was definitely one of the most memorable moments of RuneScape's history. Number 7. Skill Capes. On the 18th of October in 2006, Skill Capes were finally released after having been alluded to several times within the forums, after Jagex had received many complaints of dedicated high-level players not being able to have much to flaunt with after maxing a skill. Capes of Accomplishment, their formal name, cost 99,000 coins and automatically become trimmed once a player obtains 2 level 99 skills. The capes themselves all come with a very specific emote based off of the skill that they're associated with too, and it's sort of how I got my name Moteblocks. Back in 2006, a lot of players would follow high-level players around saying Moteblocks whenever they wanted to see the emotes of the cape when they had first came out, because there were a lot of people back then that didn't have 99, so they couldn't ever see the emotes. And a lot of high-level players were stuck up too, and they didn't want to show the emotes, so Moteblocks. Today, in old-school RuneScape, skill capes actually have very specific perks. For example, the crafting cape gives you unlimited teleports to the crafting guild, which is useful when you're wanting to skill efficiently as possible when you need a bank, as the bank chest there is closer to you than even Castle Wars' bank chest is. The hunter cape can teleport you to Feldup Hills or the Black Chinchompas. The fire-making cape acts as a light source. The HP cape restores your hit points twice as fast, and if you have level 99 in every stat, you can receive a max cape, which has the combined perks of every single skill cape. There is even now an achievement diary cape, which can teleport you to all 5 diary masters each day, as well as a music cape, although this one doesn't give any perks at all. Number 6. Zezma. I don't believe that there's a single person out there in the RuneScape community that doesn't know this name, and if they don't, it's probably because they're literally a brand new player, noob, fresh out of Tutorial Island. Anyway, known outside of RuneScape as Peter Zezima, he is a cyberworld celebrity who was the highest ranked person in RuneScape overall for many, many years ever since RuneScape Classic. He began playing RuneScape in 2001 after a friend showed him the game, and has been playing ever since. He was the first person to achieve level 99 Slayer, a total level of 1,980 and 2,079, and 1 billion experience overall. A Jagex moderator even cited him as arguably the most famous player of all time. And Zezima was even quoted in the back of Jagex's book, Betrayal at Falador, stating that it's the best thing that doesn't give XP, which I found pretty funny. Perhaps one of the most memorable moments of RuneScape's history is when Zezima stopped playing competitively. On his YouTube channel, he stated that the game had been getting progressively easier over time, and that he didn't feel a sense of accomplishment in what he, and many players like him, had achieved since the very beginning of the game. It wasn't until 2008, when the summoning skill was released, that Zezima's name on the high scores began to drop, and the community never really received an explanation for this for a long time. Today, Zezima is in his 30s and still plays RuneScape today. More so RuneScape 3, probably because he'd like to keep progressing the account he's worked so hard on, but he does hop on old school RuneScape from time to time. He's the most famous player ever, and probably always will be, and I'm not gonna lie, when he followed me back on Twitter, I fangirled. A lot. Number 5. The Wilderness Removal. The Wilderness has always been famous in RuneScape for being the only place where non-members could engage in player versus player combat to gain all the items that the defeated player drops, until December 10th, 2007, when the Duel Arena was open to free players and the Bounty Hunter and Clan Wars minigames were introduced. Around the years of 2005 to 2007, RuneScape saw a huge increase in real-world trading as well as botting. Back then, bot detection wasn't as sophisticated as it is today, so Jagex tried doing something drastic, and it worked for the most part, but it did far more damage than good. They made it to where you could no longer attack anybody in the wilderness, and they also implemented a limit on how much you could trade based off of how old your account was or whether or not you were a member. For example, if you were level 3 fresh off of Tutorial Island, you could only receive or give around 3,000 coins. Gift giving and merchanting became a thing of the past. Later, Bounty Hunter was introduced to try to keep PvP alive within the game, and some players liked it, but most didn't because you wouldn't get the defeated player's items. You would only receive about 76k even if you killed someone who had a Dragon Full Helm on. There were also limits put on dueling, as well as the Falador party room, and drop trading became impossible as well. Jagex definitely made a big impact on the real-world trading and botting economy, but it also made an impact on the regular economy of players that never cheated within the game ever, and this resulted in the game losing thousands and thousands of loyal players that had been around for years since the beginning, and a lot of people in general considered this update to be the day that RuneScape officially died, and riots were held everywhere. From the 24th of December until the 14th of January in 2011, 4 years later, a referendum to bring back the old wilderness and free trade was conducted, in which 91% of the votes were a yes. As of the 18th of January, the attack option was secretly added back to the menu when right-clicking on a player in the wilderness in certain areas, but clicking it would yield the message, "You can only attack players in a player versus player area" in your chat box, and it wasn't until the 1st of February in 2011 that the original wilderness and free trade were finally restored. Number 4, Jad. On October 4th, 2005, RuneScape received a new boss monster apart from the King Black Dragon. Before Jad, Czar City was already a thing, and with the city's release on the 19th of September in 2005 came onyx jewelry and obsidian weapons and armor. However, it was rumored that Jad was already a work in progress before Czar City was ever released, so when you really think about it, if we didn't have Jad today, onyx jewelry might not have ever been a thing. For so many years, Jad stood as the most difficult boss in all of RuneScape until the release of the Corporal Beast in 2008. Jad had frustrated so many players who just can't seem to figure out how to beat him. I will admit that back in the day I even had my own struggles with him, but after doing Zulrah for so many times in old school RuneScape, doing Jad is pretty much a cakewalk now. Unless of course you saw my last stream recently where I screwed up. There's also been some interesting videos on YouTube displaying people's reactions and rage quits after dying to Jad repeatedly, most notably one where a guy ran outside of his house all the way down the street, stripped his clothes off, and jumped in a lake. For years, even though Jad has wrecked us all at one point or another and has frustrated nearly every RuneScape player ever, he definitely deserves a spot in this countdown as one of the most memorable moments in RuneScape's history, because the first time you do actually defeat him and receive that fire cape, you never forget it. Number 3, the God Wars Dungeon. Originally known within lore as the Temple of Lost Ancients, it's a dungeon where armies of various gods left over from the God Wars times fight one another to the death, and Jagex has classified the God Wars Dungeon as the most dangerous place in all of RuneScape. Released into the game on the 28th of August in 2007, the God Wars Dungeons offers some great rewards for players who are strong enough to fight the bosses that reside here, being in old school RuneScape, Zilyana, Bandos, Armadillo, and the Zamorak boss that has a name that nobody can pronounce. Before the God Wars dungeon was released, the best armor you could have in game was a Barrows, Fighter Torso, Dragon, or Rune. In fact, when old school RuneScape first came out, God Wars wasn't a thing yet until it was voted in by the players due to old school RuneScape's game version being one that existed before August 28, 2007 at first. God Swords, Armadillo armor, Bandos armor, Saradomin weapons like the Saradomin sword, apart from all the other God Swords, the Zamorakian spear that can later be turned into an Hosta, and a lot of other unique items were brought into existence because of this dungeon. Today, there are many players that are so skilled, Bodhi, who can literally camp God Wars dungeon bosses for multiple kills, receiving drops quite efficiently, and since receiving the shards and hilts are the only way to actually smith God Swords, it's amazing to me how dedicated this community is when it comes to getting items up to speed in the economy's price circulations. It didn't take long after God Wars was out in old school RuneScape for their drops to be put at a stable price within the Grand Exchange. I think it's safe to say that RuneScape would not be what it is today, and neither would PvMing or PvP in general without the God Wars dungeon release. Number 2, the Grand Exchange. Released on the 26th of November in 2007, the GE is a trading system for players to buy and sell almost all tradable items. Members have 8 Grand Exchange slots in which they may trade items, however free players are limited to just 3. Traders do not need to advertise, meet each other, or even wait at the Grand Exchange for their trades to complete either. Before the Grand Exchange's release, Jagex had several legal issues with real-world trading organizations. These organizations used bots to harvest raw materials and then either would sell them to NPC shops or amass them in a farming system. Their virtual wealth is then traded to players for real-world money. The Grand Exchange was implemented alongside with a restriction on player-to-player trades, which restricted net wealth transfer to 3,000 coins. The restriction, aka the trade limit, was intended to weaken the real-world traders and every type of price manipulation, but it also harmed genuine merchants and honest players, as I spoke of earlier in number 5. Around this time, most players would agree that there were a lot of bad updates to the game back then, but the Grand Exchange wasn't considered to be one of them. Most players' initial reactions were actually positive, and they embraced the release of the GE. It's a good way to toss junk out of your bank and make money doing it instead of just dropping it. And some players took it farther, though, when it came to criticizing the GE. Some criticized Jagex's lack of transparency, believing that Jagex should release the Grand Exchange's pricing algorithms, which they never have. All in all, I was happy when the Grand Exchange came to RuneScape back in the year 2007, and I was happy again when it came to old school RuneScape in 2015. This update changed RuneScape's trading economy forever, and money is the most important thing in RuneScape, which is why I believe its release was one of RuneScape's most memorable moments in history. Number 1. Now, some of you may disagree with me on this. RuneScape's community has always been pretty active with YouTube, and so many people still today like watching YouTube videos while they play. Skychi, Dudefish, Gross Gore, Max Boysen, The Unforgiving, Excel, Vodka 5, Tanoob Show, Fat Wrecked, Elfmage, I Mahatma I, and a lot of other greats have come and gone, but the most memorable one has got to be Tanoob Show. Known outside of RuneScape as Cameron, he is arguably just as famous as Zezma within the community. Tanoob Show was the most subscribed machinima creator on YouTube, and at one point even reached number 89 on YouTube's all-time most subscribed list in 2009. He is best known for his Bob, RuneScape Gods Expose, and Falligard series. After releasing the 10th episode of Gods Expose on December 24, 2010, Cameron took a long break in which he rarely made videos, as well as appearances on social media for a number of years, and it shocked the community. Later, it was known that he went to film school for a while, and on November 8, 2012, he uploaded a live-action skit entitled Where Has Tanoob Show Been?, featuring his previous video series RuneScape Gods Exposed. The video jokingly explained how Tanoob Show had spent the entire time of absence working on a Gods Exposed movie. When Cameron left, a lot of people were sad, and in my opinion, the game was sort of headed down a downhill direction back then, and him leaving to me just added to all of those negative feelings. On the 6th of August 2013, he uploaded a video called Tanoob Show Update explaining that he no longer wanted to create RuneScape videos, but followed this up saying that one day he might make one simply because he feels like it. In May of 2015, the communities of both RuneScape 3 and Old School RuneScape were shocked when they saw that Cameron had uploaded a video called It's Back, foreshadowing the return of RuneScape Gods Exposed. I myself was able to be a part of his Talking to Famous Noobs 2015 last year, and it was a very humbling experience after knowing who he was and how famous he was for years, because he was a big inspiration for me starting YouTube. Today, unfortunately, he doesn't upload anymore, and it doesn't look like he's going to either from what I've heard from some of my friends who are close with him, but I do know that if he does, he will be welcomed back to the community, of course, once again with open arms. So that's 10 of some of the most memorable moments within the history of RuneScape. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and my next video will probably be the top 10 useful skilling NPCs. I hope you guys have enjoyed once again, and thank you for the amount of support that I've seen recently. From now on, I'm not going to acknowledge drama anymore. I'm just going to upload videos, stream, and just leave it at that. Follow me on Twitch if you guys want to see me stream. I usually post a video on this YouTube channel and then take it down just to let people know that I am streaming, because a lot of people seem to miss it. Or follow me on Twitter and Instagram, all my social media, and my Snapchat. I post there whenever I will actually be live. And join my clan chat. You can also see the name there. I changed the clan name to Streaming Soon or Streaming Now whenever I am about to stream and are officially streaming. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. I sincerely do. I love you guys, and I will talk to you guys later.